Welcome to the show. This is Fifth Street Sports Soccer here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, SB Nation Radio. Great to be with you today. We're with you every Friday talking the beautiful game, getting ready for you all the big matches over the weekend. And we do have some big matches coming up this weekend. We have a Merseyside derby. We've got a Manchester derby. There is in Spain. We also have a Madrid derby. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Anyway, we're going to get to England. We're going to talk about the Premier League. Going to give you our picks for the weekend in case you'd like to wager a little dosh, see where you go. So that's all going to be there for you. We're going to talk Champions League. Going to welcome back to the show my co-host Nick Webster, who's calling me from his coat closet. So we're going to get Nick in. Hello, Nick. There he is. By the way, if you're listening to the show on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, just a reminder, you can watch us as well on YouTube. And if you want to know how to do that, just go to our website at fifthstreetsports.com. All the links that you need are right below the line, so to speak. You just click on them, and there you go. And we had a fantastic week in the Champions League. For me, as a Liverpool supporter, it was absolutely epic. We're going to talk about that. But other than that result, would you say that it's a bit of a snooze fest, more of the same in the Champions League? I'm going to talk to Nick about that. I, for one, am getting sick of the Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. It's enough, really. Some new blood. We need some new blood. We need something to liven it up a bit. I'm sick of hearing about Messi. I'm sick of hearing about Ronaldo. It's just, it's enough. Anyhow, if you'd like to reach us, you can do that on Twitter at Fifth Street Sports. We're on Facebook at facebook.com Fifth Street Talk. I think it's Fifth Street Talk. Fifth Street Sports Talk. There we go, Fifth Street Sports Talk. I'll get it right. All right, well, going to step aside, take a little break, going to pay some bills, and we will be right back with more Fifth Street Soccer right here, Sports Byline USA, SB Nation Radio. Hope you stay with us. We'll be right back after this. God, this echo's appalling. It's so bad. I just don't know why it's coming in through the computer. All right, welcome back to the show. This is Fifth Street Sports Soccer on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, SB Nation Radio. I'm Nick Geber, and I'm going to bring in my co-host for the show. Welcome back for a second week running, my good friend, former colleague, all-around bon vivant, Mr. Nick Webster. Hi, Nick.
Nick, thank you for having me back. Two weeks in a row. I must have done something right the first week. What was that? Show up?
No, well, your predictions were slightly better than mine last week, actually. So all the punters that put money on you did a lot better than the ones that put money on me. So, by popular demand, we bring Nick Webster back.
And funnily enough, I actually took my own advice. So, cha-ching.
Really? Nice one,
Yes.
Nick. And
Nice
that's why
one.
Oh, we lost you there. What'd you say?
Excuse me?
Oh, okay, you cut out there. You were making some great comment, but I see that's why you have all the new kit. You must have splashed out some dosh. Yeah.
Yes, I went into the wardrobe actually, and just I thought in honor of Liverpool stunning victory, I would have them front and center behind me, and it's another way for me to suck up to you as well.
Okay, well, that sucking up to me is always good, Nick. Flattery gets you everywhere. But look, let's talk about the Champions League before we get to the Premier League. Right now, there are two co-favorites to win the Champions League, and I don't need to tell you who they are, right? But let's give you the odds. By the way, you can get these odds at betanysport.com, and right now, a special going on right now. If you sign up and use Fifth Street as the affiliate code, you can get a 50% bonus up to $1,000, so up to $500. So if you deposit $1,000, the fools at betanysport.com will actually give you $1,500 to bet with. God knows why, but they will. This is it. So if you want to put a little money behind your thoughts here, now's the time to do it. Once again, the affiliate code at betanysport.com is Fifth Street. So here we go, Nick. Barcelona plus 220 to win. Who do you think the other plus 220 is, Webster?
I don't know. Please tell me.
It's Real Madrid. What a shocker. Bayern Munich not too far behind at plus 310. And that's kind of interesting. And, of course, Liverpool plus 545. Right now it's looking, barring some incredible results, and City could still do something at home. But right now it's looking like it's going to be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Liverpool. I can't see too many of those results changing, Nick. How about you?
Not really, although I would be interested to learn what are City's odds coming into the second leg to win it all. I'm hoping it's a staggering 20 or 30 to 1.
Well, it's plus 1,790.
Outstanding. So that's got to be worth $1 or $2, isn't it? Because if you think about the recent history of Manchester City and Liverpool, usually very high-scoring games, and should City get an early one at the Etihad, could be twitchy bum time for the Reds.
It could certainly. It will certainly set it up for a very interesting match. I actually think they will get the early goal, but I don't know that they're going to be able to score. I mean, they're going to have to score 4 goals at home to win without allowing Liverpool any concession, without giving Liverpool a goal. If Liverpool get 1 goal, they're going to have to score 5, and that's going to be awfully tough, I think.
Yeah, it's a big ask, but then again, didn't we say the same last year when PSG went to the Nou Camp with a 4-0 first leg advantage and managed to bungle it and lose 6-1?
Yeah, that was a Nou Camp. That was a Nou Camp. So
you're trying to say that the Etihad doesn't have the same kind of mystique as the Nou Camp?
Quite possibly.
I was interested to hear your comments before we went to break, though, saying you're particularly bored of Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich continually being the last 4 for the Champions League. My response to that would be, other teams, get better.
Well, I agree, Nick. I do agree, and I'm taking nothing away from the quality of those teams. So I'm not complaining about their football. I'm just saying it's old, it's boring, it's tired. I'm tired of Messi. I'm tired of Ronaldo. I'm never tired of Luis Suarez because he looks like Freddie Mercury. But, I'm tired of these guys. It's always the same. I don't want to hear about Iniesta and Piqué and the same. It's the same whole nonsense. Just goes on and on. I don't even watch those Euro trash award festivals anymore because they're just Barcelona and Madrid love fests.
Well, I do hear what you're saying, but until you can produce a bicycle kick on that sofa to match CR7's the other day, I'm afraid we've got no choice but to watch the man because he's simply, I mean, I hate to use this phrase because all the English journos use it, but I will. He's box office.
Oh, he is. He's a terrific player. They both are terrific players. I mean, as I said at the start of this, the preface was, I'm not taking anything away from how great these players are and how great these teams are. It's just from a fan's perspective, and not just from a Liverpool perspective, but from a fan's perspective, wouldn't it be great to just see a Final Four without the usuals?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And I think that's why, looking back at a few years when Leicester City won the Premiership, it was absolutely so refreshing to see the Big Four, the Big Five, getting usurped by some, the scruffy kid who's got a dirty shirt and a black eye. And he's just, he's boxing and fighting away. And if only I'd put $10 on Leicester City at 5,000 to 1, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
No, and I wonder how many diehard Leicester supporters actually made that bet at the beginning of the season, because I know they do. I mean, there's plenty of seasons where I've bet on Liverpool, regardless of whether they're a crap team or not that year. I put the wager on just because they're my team, and that's what I do.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find that out, but I think the BBC did quite actually in-depth study, and it seems like only 20 to 30 fans actually bothered to put anything worthwhile on their team. And I think the biggest story was Tom Hanks, who put 100 quid on them.
Yeah. Was a smart man. Nick, looking at the odds here, and maybe we can bring these up on the screen if you are watching us on YouTube or on Twitch or any one of the myriad of video outlets we do. But you can actually see, I think right now, some great value is if you choose either the field winning against Barcelona or the field winning against Madrid, because you're getting minus 260 for either of those, which means a $100 bet will get you $260 if either of those teams don't win. So it's a fair enough bet.
I do like that one, being that the draw for the semi-final hasn't yet been made, and should Real Madrid and Barcelona get matched up against each other, well, that knocks half the competition out. And of course, Liverpool and their European mystique, it'd be foolish to bet against them. And of course, Bayern Munich under Heinkes are absolutely outstanding this year, and generally do very well when they get to the latter stages of these European competitions, because they've already put the Bundesliga safely up on the club shelf.
Yeah, the thing is, Nick, don't you think Bayern Munich are maybe a little long in the tooth?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you're going to talk about long in the tooth, then we could also say the same things, to be honest with you, about Barcelona and Real Madrid. Ronaldo's the wrong side of 30. Messi's the wrong side of 30. The superstars in these teams are all, I'm not going to say advanced age, being that you and I are closer to 60 than they are to 40.
That's very young, by the way. Yeah.
However, I think being old in the tooth isn't the worst thing in the world in European football, where really experience trumps everything.
That's a great point. One that I don't like to bring up, obviously, if I'm making my argument. But you're right. In European football, experience counts for more, because it really isn't. It isn't a marathon. It's tournament football. So as long as your players are there and they show up and they're taking their Geritol and they've got their walkers with them, you can get them through that. You can get them through that match. All right, I hear the music, so that means, Nick, we got to get ready to go to break. So let me just let everybody know, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about the Premier League, and there's some big matches. As I said, we have a Merseyside derby, we have a Manchester derby. Will Manchester City clinch the title? And that's a horrible word. It's something like your doctor says when you go for the prostate exam, clinch the title against Man United. What do you think? Let us know. Find us on Twitter @Fifth Street Sports. I'm Nick Geber. He's Nick Webster. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the show. Fifth Street Soccer on Fifth Street Sports here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Also SB Nation Radio. If you want to watch the shows, if you're getting out of the car and you want to listen to it on the computer or watch it, you can actually watch it on YouTube, on Twitch, just by if you go to your closet and you get one of those wire hangers and you hold it above your head, you're going to pick us up through the ether. But if that doesn't work, you can get us on YouTube, on Twitch. If you go to our website at fifthstreetsports.com, and all the links that you need are there. All right, I'm Nick Geber, and welcome back to the show. My co-host, Nick Webster. Nick, put the wire coat hanger down, all right?
Where is it? Here we go. It's.
Are you connecting to us through the ether? No.
I'm connecting to the. Yeah, there we go. I've got you. Works perfectly.
All right, Nick. Let's get to the Premier League. We complained a little bit about the Champions League. We gave you our picks for the Champions League, and just to wrap up the Champions League discussion, you don't actually see any of the. You don't see any changes over the four teams that we talked about: Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Liverpool.
No, I mean it's really hard to back against anybody else. I mean the scores from the first leg are pretty much rubber stamped their cruise into the last four, and I mean as quickly before we do move to the Premiership, as a Liverpool fan, who would you like to get?
Bayern Munich. I mean, you want Bayern Munich because you want one of the two Spanish powerhouses to have to commit fratricide and knock the other one out. And then I think Liverpool stand a better chance against Bayern Munich because of Jurgen Klopp being German, being very familiar with the style. Yeah, you definitely want Bayern Munich. You want to let the two Spaniards go head-to-head, have their own bullfight, and then you want to have the old World War III going on there with the English team and a German team, and that should be fantastic. What I will say from a betting standpoint, and we don't really have time to get into it today because we have a full slate of Premiership matches to talk about, if you are going to bet the spread for the matches coming up, the return leg matches in the Champions League, we are going to have some very high-scoring matches because every one of the teams that's down enough that they've got to score a boatload of goals to get anywhere close, and that's going to open them up to the best teams in the world. I don't know what else to say. So they're going to be very high-scoring matches.
I would definitely take the over in the Liverpool City game. No doubt about it. And I'm sure the over is going to be 3+3. Take it.
I would take it too. Yeah. And what about the other matches? Roma, Juventus. I mean, how do you see those going down?
Well, I mean, Juventus have got such a mountain to climb. I just think Real Madrid have broken their hearts, and I would not be surprised to see that be actually a low-scoring game. Madrid have really done, they've done the business. They've stolen Juventus's mojo for how many years in a row now? 5 or 6. I just think the old lady's going to go there and just be happy to walk out of there with a 1-0. Barcelona, I mean, thumped them 4-1. I mean, they don't really need to do much either. And then the remaining game, Bayern Munich, 2-1, and Bayern are usually pretty solid at home. So I see some goals in that one.
Yeah, I can too. All right, so let's get to the Premier League, shall we? And let's start with the first match of the weekend, which is, in many respects, one of the biggest matches of the weekend, just because it's a derby, is Liverpool-Everton. It's at Goodison Park, which, if you don't know, is where Everton play. And it is one of the biggest derbies in English football. It's oftentimes called the friendly derby because it's not, over the years, hasn't been quite as violent as some of the others, such as the Manchester derby. And Nick, just to change topics for a second, I remember growing up when there was always violence at those Manchester derbies, when people used to throw darts. Remember? People were throwing darts in the stands, and I remember pictures in the paper of this girl that had a dart sticking out of her forehead. And while we're talking about darts, just want to say how sorry and sad I was to hear about the passing of Eric Bristow.
The crafty Cockney, an absolute legend.
The man who really single-handedly dragged darts into the modern era.
Bristow quickens, Bristow thickens. Bristow.
Yeah.
That's me channeling Sid Waddell, though, by the way. So I wish I could. But Sid Waddell, an absolute legend in the commentary stakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you ever have a chance to watch darts. It's a lot of fun. It's a great sport, and it's great for betting. It's one of the biggest betting sports in the UK. People love to bet darts. There's so many options and variations and props you can make on darts. It's a very deep sport if you like to wager a little. And if you like to wager, you can do that very easily, by the way, through our partners at betanysport.com. You can go to our website at fifthstreetsports.com/bet-now, or you can just go to betanysport.com and sign up. Right now is a 50% bonus. So if you put up to $1,000 deposit. So if you deposit $1,000, they'll give you $1,500 to play with. And even best is you can actually make a deposit with credit cards. They're US player friendly. So it's all good. You can have a great time. And as we talk about these odds, you can get your pencil and paper and write down, and, we'll make you a fortune, won't we, Nick?
Absolutely. And when you look at the odds of this Merseyside derby, Everton very generous, 3-1. And you think about Everton last weekend, and they were absolutely dire against Manchester City. The locals very unhappy with Big Sam Allardyce, but I think Big Sam, he's a canny manager, Nick, and he'll realize that Liverpool have expended a lot of physical and emotional energy on a Wednesday night's Champions League game. And rumor has it that Mo Salah, who had a slight groin injury in that game, will not be risked by Jurgen Klopp. I've got to say, Everton, they've got the Manc Terror, otherwise known as Tottenham's best, Wayne Rooney, who will be desperate to put one over on Liverpool. And I think actually the Everton players need and really have to put on a good performance for the Goodison faithful. Otherwise, this season could just drift off into nothingness. Should Everton win, it's probably going to save Sam Allardyce's job.
Do you really think his job is in jeopardy, or they will accept a sort of average season from Big Sam?
No, I think his job is in jeopardy because of the fact that the season is just seemingly doing one of those little just drifting away. So I think there's only 6 games left in the season. This would be a huge impact game for him to put one over on the Reds. But as you and I discussed pre-show, we both also fancy the tie. I just don't see Liverpool winning this one, though.
I don't either, Nick. And the draw is plus 263, so it's a great bet right now. $100 will need $263. And if you think about it, if you do the sign-up bonus on betnysport.com, you're only actually putting 50 down because they're giving you 50, right?
Oh, so I love the way you think.
That's a nice way to think about it, right?
Yes, you're quite the mathematician, Nicholas.
Indeed I am. All right, we're both going for the draw. And by the way, Jordan Henderson will definitely play because he cannot play midweek in the Champions League because he's ineligible because of yellow cards. You have to think Wijnaldum and Emre Can will probably play, and Milner and Oxlade-Chamberlain will probably rest. So I think it's not going to be the strongest Liverpool squad out there, and I'm with you. Draw. Let's go to Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Nick. This is an important one because Crystal Palace are really teetering on the edge. They've had a series of, shall we say, disappointing results, particularly last week against West Ham where they lost 3-0. They really needed to pull out a point out of that match at least to sort of draw themselves out of the drop zone. They're only 2 points ahead. They do have... and by the way, Southampton, who are right behind them with 28, have a game in hand. So this is a very, very important match, I think, for Palace, Nick. How do you see this one going down?
Well, I feel so bad for Palace because you and I had both said that the Palace-Liverpool game had 1-1 written all over it, and of course, with 3 minutes to go, it's 1-1, and I'm counting the filthy loo, and up steps Salah. So that's been really the heartbreak for Palace over the last 3 or 4 games. I remember the United game, they were 2-0 up and lost it in injury time. So it really is a massive game. But I love this Palace team. I'm really very fond of Saha, who I think is a magnificent talent. But Bournemouth, I mean, they've only lost 2 in their last 13. So it's quite incredible, really, not to see Bournemouth up in the higher echelons of the table. But the fact that it is so tight this year, and Bournemouth have been picking up points here and there with late dramatic ties themselves. So I think this is one of those games where Bournemouth would be very happy with the tie. For Palace, more drop points. And I have to see Palace going for this one. I don't see them sitting back. And I think... I'm going to go for the over in the goal stake on this one.
Nice. Nick, what's interesting is... we have to go to break, I believe. Do we have to go? No, we still got a bit of time. Nick, you talk about Bournemouth only having lost 2 out of their last so many games. Of course, one of those was to Spurs, and that was just a few matches ago. And their match coming up, I believe, next week is against... I think it's against... don't they have the Spurs match coming up, or is that the return? No, their match coming up next week's a big one too. I think they're going to look to try to get the points right now. So I like Bournemouth for this one.
Well, they do say that 40 points is the magical benchmark for surviving in the Premiership, and Bournemouth are so desperately close to that. Their run-in's a little bit more favourable than some of the teams who are in that relegation zone. But I mean, like you say though, Bournemouth not exactly safe just yet. So I think it's going to be very tight. But I'm going to actually I'm going to go against you on this one. I'm going to go with Palace.
All right, we'll be right back after this. This is Fifth Street Soccer. Welcome back to the show. This is Fifth Street Soccer on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, SB Nation Radio. Nick Eber with you, along with Nick Webster. We are going through our Premier League picks for the weekend, so if you want to put that dosh, that all-important hard-earned dosh, on our predictions or your predictions, you can do that. We're going to educate you, give you the ammunition you need to make yourself. We're going to set you up for success, to use those wonderful corporate terms. Nick, we spoke about Bournemouth Crystal Palace last time. Let's move along, shall we? Brighton Huddersfield. This is a really important match for Huddersfield and Brighton because they're both sort of right there, 31 points, 34 points. Huddersfield took this one 2-0 for the return leg back in December. I personally like Brighton for this one, Nick. How about you?
Yes, absolutely. And I would actually like to say that this is perhaps the biggest match of the weekend. You know, put your derbies aside that really mean very little in the big picture for both United, City, Liverpool, and Everton. But for survival of the Premiership that we all know is worth close to $100 million, this is almost $100 million game. Brighton's run-in is absolutely scandalous. I believe they play Spurs they play United, they play City. So unless they can get 3 points in this game, I would say Brighton are going down. On the other side of the coin, you have Huddersfield, who are going through an absolute nightmare spell themselves, of finding it very hard to score goals. Brighton should have won their game against Leicester last time out. Murray missing a penalty when the score was 0-0. So I, like you, I really fancy Brighton on this one. Their home form has been pretty good, and there's always a nice crowd backing them. Brighton to win this one. Put your house on it.
Yeah, and of course, the last time Brighton won, at least you can remember the date. I don't think anyone can remember the last time Huddersfield actually won a match. Brighton winning back in February against Swansea at home, Nick. So I think that home advantage really will play out. I'm with you on that one, so I'm going to go with Brighton. Another interesting match, only because I follow Rafa Benitez's Liverpool-Newcastle. Other than that, I'm not quite sure how interesting this is, except that Newcastle, 35 points. They're not necessarily clear. They can't really breathe that sigh of relief. So it's not all that important of a match, I think, in the big scheme of things. How do you like this one?
Oh, in the big scheme of things, I agree with you 100%. I think Newcastle have been pretty poor away from home throughout the entire Premier League season. Meanwhile, Leicester City, I've looked at their results and they're kind of, a little topsy-turvy. But when they do get on a roll, they're actually scoring a lot of goals. They scored 3 last time out, and I believe they will score 3 again. And especially as I have Riyad Mahrez as my fantasy captain, he better do the business.
Well, we will see. You talk about Newcastle at home, but of course they did lose to Leicester at home on the return fixture earlier on. I believe that was in December. So, okay, I'm with you. I think Leicester's going to win this one, Nick.
Yeah. 100%.
Another big match, and one that is sadly very easy to predict, but it's very, very big match because we're talking about Stoke Spurs, and Stoke City are just awful. They're currently in 19th spot, 27 points. They haven't won a match since Barack Obama was president, and it's really bad. They've had 2 draws, 3 losses in the last 5. They're coming to play a very, very hot Spurs team coming off that massive result against Chelsea. Spurs have won 5 in a row. It's an easy match to predict, Nick.
It is an easy match to predict, but however, the odds, Stoke are being offered, I believe, 8.5 to 1 to win this game at their own home stadium. We've seen in the past Sir Alex Ferguson famously saying, "Come on, lads, it's Tottenham." Have Tottenham developed a stiff upper lip? Can they go to Stoke on a cold, wet Saturday night? That is the question. I believe that they should be able to go there with Harry Kane, hopefully back in the starting lineup, because he's certainly in my fantasy Premiership team. Spurs should roll to victory, but part of me is very tempted. 8.5 to 1 on the home team to win a game.
Pretty interesting. The draw is not a good option on this one. This match will not be a draw. I can promise you that.
No, this will not be a draw.
And it's only paying $2.53 for the draw, which is the money line, which is not great. All right, Tottenham going to win this match.
Yes, Tottenham going to win it.
Watford, Burnley. This is another one of these matches, really meaningless. So I tell you what we're going to do, because we're running a little short on time. They're both mid-table mediocrity. They're not going anywhere. Neither one's going to get relegated. Neither one's going to win the Premier League or make Europe. So let's just draw a line under Watford, Burnley, and say, let's move on. West Brom's Swansea. Another match with some implications, Nick. Only because West Brom are just so bloody awful. They're right at the dead barrel bottom of the Premier League. They are going down to the Championship. It is done and dusted. That's what happens. And that's really proof for me, Nick, when we talk about management and ownership and boardroom decisions, about really how they can affect a football club. I mean, they've had more managers and executives go through them than Donald Trump has had cabinet members.
Yes, it hasn't been the best of years for the Baggies. Darren Moore is now taken over from Alan Pardew. If you've heard of Darren Moore, please let me know who he is. Swansea
He's not the
City
painter. Do you remember? Remember when they had? Well, I forget which team it was. One of the blokes that now owns LAFC, used to pull his pants up really high. Remember he hired his son's friend and the painter at the stadium to be the scout, the head scout. Do you remember that?
Yeah. No, and I actually don't, but it does sound like a story that's very, very believable in the realm of football.
It was just a couple of years ago too. But anyway, this match, Swansea West Bromwich Albion, may be a draw, Nick, but unlikely.
I don't know. Swansea still have to win it. I thought they did pretty good against Man United, although they did lose 2-0 at Old Trafford. But under their new Portuguese manager, their results have turned around, and I believe they will have enough to go to the Hawthorns and steal it. The over and under, just 2 goals. The bookies don't think this one is going to be a high-scoring affair at all, and I happen to go along with them on this one.
Yeah, and actually, Swansea are plus 251.
I know. I think that's kind of generous.
That's crazy. They're actually West Bromwich Albion are the favourites.
Yeah.
You know what?
I've been looking at the lineup, and there's no major injuries or anything.
Go to betanysport.com. If I'm going to put money right now, I'm going to put it on Swansea at plus 251. That is a great bet, I think. All right, let's go to the big Manchester derby. It's Manchester United, Man City. Man City can wrap it up right here. Nick, I actually like Man United for this one.
Well, and if you like Man United, you're going to love the odds then. 3-1.
3-1. 3-1. I'll tell you why I like Man United for this. They really hate Man City, number one. Number two is I think that Mourinho is probably going to be the better coach on the day. And I just think any way they can stick it to City, they will. I like Man United for this or the draw. Both play really well.
Well, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you, but for different reasons. I can't help but
the big
think
match
that
coming
City
up
will have one eye. They have to have one eye on the midweek. You know, they've won the Premier League. Obviously, you know, Pep wants to win the Premier League, but it's the Champions League that City really want. That's what the club is based on now, winning the Champions League. And I think either I'm going with a draw or a Man United win, because I think somehow or another Mourinho loves sticking it to Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, we're both the same on that one. We're both agreeing. It's either the draw or a Man United win. Both bets would be good. And again, if you want to bet right now at betanysport.com, you can get a 50% bonus on your deposits up to $1,000, which is very generous, by the way. So you get to play 30 bankroll for free, basically. So it doesn't get better than that. All right, Sunday, where I'm going here with my time, but Sunday, Arsenal, Southampton at the Emirates. You know, I just don't know what to make of Arsenal. I mean, they are a horrible team. They are soft. They are unpredictable. They are lacking in moral gumption. They are skilled. They are fully capable of putting in a great performance, but they just seem not to want to.
Well, they have scored 10 in their last 3 games, and Southampton are absolutely abysmal. And Southampton will have one eye on an FA Cup semi-final, although they should have an eye on being bloody relegated from the Premier League. The Mark Hughes bounce hasn't occurred. I fully expect Arsenal to completely steamroll them. The over and under is 3 goals. I would go over on this one. I really would. I mean, I know most games in the Premier League, they're either 2 goals, 2.5 goals, 2-1. But I really fancy a lot of goals at the old Emirates Stadium this Sunday. So you heard it here. Put your money on the over.
I'm with you. The over. Arsenal. Wenger's last season in charge. I can't imagine him taking over, continuing at the helm next year.
Nick, he's going to win the Europa League. They're going to be in the Champions League next year. It's already written.
They are going to win the Europa League, I think.
Wenger, you can't get rid of him. He's like a cockroach.
Well, okay. Chelsea, West Ham United. This should be an easy match to predict, and I am going to predict that Chelsea will win this match. West Ham in 14th place, not particularly great, or they did beat Southampton. And then before that, Watford. But they don't do well against the big teams, losing against Liverpool, losing against Chelsea. On the return leg, of course. Actually, I take it back. The previous leg, they beat Chelsea at home.
Yes, and they are approximately 9.5 to 1. And there was something missing from Chelsea's performance against Tottenham last weekend, namely backbone. And I can't help but think this Antonio Conte saga, he's leaving. Well, no one said anything yet, but it really does have an effect of destabilizing players. And West Ham United, they needed that huge win against Southampton. They got it. Arnautovic was outstanding. Perhaps, I'm not saying it's a fact, but perhaps they have another performance in them at Stamford Bridge.
That would spell the immediate end of Conte. I mean, I don't think
I
there will be. We're going to wait the next few matches. He's just going to be executed at that point. Professional execution, we're talking about.
Roman Abramovich. Will there be some poison on his door handle as he gets?
Exactly. Yeah. You are not good. You must go now. Opens the door. All right. This is Fifth Street Sports on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, SB Nation Radio. I'm Nick Geber. He's Nick Webster. And you are listening to us on all these different outlets. You can find us online at fifthstreetsports.com. Be sure to do that. Twitter is at Fifth Street Sports. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're on American Forces Radio, by the way. Big hello to our men and women in uniform around the world listening on American Forces. It is a privilege and a pleasure to speak with you as we do each and every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time and then later on in the day. So thank you for being with us. We're going to step aside, take a break. We'll be right back to wrap it up here on Fifth Street Sports Soccer. All right, welcome back. Fifth Street Sports Soccer, Sports Byline USA, SB Nation Radio, Nick Eber, Nick Webster. We're going to wrap the show up now because the hour is up. It goes by very quickly, Nick, doesn't it?
Absolutely flies by.
And I'm so sorry that we did not get an opportunity to talk about Women's World Cup qualifying and meaningless friendlies. But if you stay tuned, I can promise you we won't talk about either one of those going forward.
Didn't USA beat Mexico 4-1 yesterday?
In Women's World Cup, right?
Women's international friendly on Fox Soccer.
Yeah, not interested. I'm not interested in international friendlies really that much anyway with the senior, big teams, and I'm certainly not interested in the women's friendlies. I do like the Women's World Cup tournament itself. It's actually quite exciting, but yeah, not for me. Call me a pig, whatever. That's true. I do like lots of women's sports. By the way, women's curling, Nick. I'm into that. The Japanese women's curling team, let me tell you, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you just like the brushes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Just let's do some housekeeping. You can find us on the web at fifthstreetsports.com. You can find Nick Webster on Twitter. He's very simply at Nick Webster. Not too difficult, right? And you can find me. I'm at Nick Gebert, or at Fifth Street Sports. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're basically everywhere that you want to be. I want to thank Nick Webster. Nick, thanks so much for joining me. And
thanks, Nick. Have a great weekend.
You too. And be sure, thanks for the picks, Nick. You're going to make me some dosh this weekend. And for everyone else, we'll be back next week. And don't forget, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the big Fifth Street Sports, all betting. All going to be a lot of fun. Chat to you then. Cheers. Hey, Scott.